Avoid dating Japanese guys. Now, as a Japanese man myself, I know how terrible Japanese guys could be. Jodan desu. In all seriousness, if you were thinking Japanese guys would be like Levi or Gojo, it's not true, because here are 5 reasons why you should not date a Japanese guy. 1. Don't date a Japanese guy if you can't handle the confession. Now, I'm not talking about confessing crimes that they have committed, but a concept called kokuhaku. Basically, a guy will call your name and say, hey, let's meet up in front of the school. And when you're one-on-one, he would literally say, Suki desu. Just like that, and it means I like you romantically. And right there and there, the pressure's on. You have to say hai, which means yes, or muri kimoi, which means no way, you creep. But if you say yes, from that day, it's clear that you're dating. Number 2, you can't PDA or show public display of affection. Now, this one has a little bit more to do with the dating culture of Japan itself. Like, when people are in a romantic relationship, like a couple is walking around in public, they might hold hands, they might hug at most, typically. And one of the reasons why both men and women kind of typically agree to not show PDA or public display of affection is that Japanese people tend to think a little bit more of what others might perceive and how they might affect how others feel. Basically, they don't want to be too touchy and other people be a little bit, uncomfortable. Personally, I kind of get it, because even in the US, there are phrases like, get some space, get a room, which already shows that kind of mentality that, like, when there's a PDA near you that's a little bit too close, you're like, you know what? Give me some space, I'm a little uncomfortable, and that's kind of universal. But technically speaking, it's not like illegal or anything. There are definitely couples that do show some PDA, but it's not that common, and the overall culture behind PDA is not that common. That's probably why even the Love Island in Japan, all they did was hug. Sometimes they kissed, but mostly all they did was hug, compared to the US Love Island, where they did a little bit more than hugging. And also, like, that's why even in an anime rom-coms, like, you'll be surprised if they kissed. If they kissed, they're like, oh my god, that's crazy, I would like to clarify that if you see in the streets of Japan a couple walking, it is clear that they're a romantic couple. Like, there doesn't have to be a PDA to tell that there's a romantic couple walking, so it's not like you can't tell. Like, even if they're not stuck together, you could tell they're dating. But if you're the type of person that you wanted the world, the public to know, you bagged yourself Uchiha Itachi, you can't really show that in public. 3, don't date a Japanese guy if you can't make a handmade chocolate. This one is specifically because Japanese Valentine's Day has a little twist to it. The twist is that in Japan, on Valentine's Day, a girl would give a guy she likes chocolate, and if it's handmade, she really does like you or care about you. Now, this reference you might have seen in other anime, like if a girl protagonist or girl character is making chocolate, it does tend to be that like romantic gift kind of connotation behind it, and that's because of the Valentine's Day culture, and chocolates have that kind of feeling. Not all the time, but good amount of time. Now, how many chocolates did I, Matsu, receive when I lived in Japan? Enough to make your nose bleed. I don't know why for Japan, if you eat chocolate too much, they say your nose is gonna bleed. I'm not sure why they told me that. Now, there are chocolates called girichoko, which means that you're just a friend, you're friend-zoned. But it's still a chocolate, so you should accept it. I accepted mine, It's still chocolate, it still tasted good. It might have not been handmade, it might have been store-bought, but it's still a chocolate. One thing to know is that there is another day called White Day, or they'll pronounce it White Day, which is 1 month after Valentine's Day, so March 14th, and that's the day where the guy has to return the girl white chocolate. The unfortunate thing is that most of the times it's not handmade, they'll just buy it from a store. I haven't heard, still to this day, a guy make a handmade white chocolate. You know what? I will though. If you give me a chocolate, I will personally make you a white chocolate. Number 4, don't date a Japanese guy if you want to hear I love you every time. A positive take for this one would be that Japanese guys like to show affection through actions more than words. Like, one of the things that is culturally known is that guys would plan like a day-long dates for or with a girl. Like, these are like a full day itinerary out here. You wake up, brunch at a cat cafe, you go to an amusement park, then zoo, then aquarium, then a little bit of yakiniku at night. Like, it's a full day that typically the guy plans. out. That's why there's always tend to be like a date scene or a date episode in rom-com anime. Sometimes you might have noticed that the guy didn't plan it out, but it is kind of like culturally known that it was a planned out thing. Like a girl could obviously contribute to that, but like planned out thing is shown through their actions. Unfortunately, you might be like, well, what about the casual like 1 hour meetups? Like 1 hour meetups might not happen as much, but when they have a date, it'll be full send. It'll be a full day of hopefully fun activities. So these display of affection can be clearly seen, but I would say unlike the Western counterparts, the casual I love you is not as unfortunately common. But I would still disagree with a lot of blogs or videos that say that Japanese guys would never say it. Because like, first of all, confession, the kokuhaku, literally the dating scene starts off with the guy saying, I like you. And even in your name, it's shown that, like, you know, he could have probably just wrote his name down, you know, kept the story a little bit shorter, but he wanted to write Skida, I like you. So there are clear instances where a guy will tell the girl that I like you, I love you. Like even if you listen to J-pop, J-rock, you can see that I love you is clearly said and it's truly valued. So I do think Japanese guy could say a little bit more often, but when they do say it, it's true. Hopefully. Finally, number 5, don't listen to people who say, look out for these things about Japanese men. This includes myself, because honestly, romance and romantic relationship is unique to that one-on-one relationship. Like cultures do exist, you know? Like culture differences do exist, so it's not the worst thing to try to understand other people's culture, and I don't want to take that away from anyone. But at the end of the day, romantic relationship, like I said, is one-on-one, and the way it builds will truly be unique, and only you two will understand what it meant or it means. Like what the frick will these blogs, or even I know if you start dating a Japanese guys, you know, I'm sure you're a lovely person, I'm sure the other guys are a lovely guy, but what the frick do I know, you know? So basically having some awareness of culture differences and those things like that will definitely not hurt, but if you only pigeonhole yourself and be too overly sensitive when you catch, you know, oh, he didn't say I love you, so that must be, you know, if you're too overly sensitive with that kind of aspects, you shouldn't forget about the building aspect of a relationship, which only you two will know. And also in the internet, you know, people like to be negative. You know, people who probably post about bad relationship with Japanese girls or Japanese guys, like people who had bad relationship will most likely post it, and then that could get a lot of attention. But you know, that might not be the full statistics. So, you know, be aware of that too. At the end of the day, like Neon Genesis said, we're all porcupines. So, anyways, it's try your best and have an open mind. The best advice I would give is probably you would have to speak Japanese, so check out the Skillshare I made and the link of the description below where I talk about the first step of learning Japanese. Subscribe to join the Nakama and peace!